Hello.
Hello. Hello.
I'm crunching on carrots, so I was very, very tempted to say, "What's up, docs?" But then I realized you guys can't see that I'm crunching on carrots, and so it would have only been a joke for me.
Nom, 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 nom.
Nom 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 nom.
I don't even think my kids know what that would mean.
Yeah, exactly. Like they'd be like, "What? Who's what? That doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense. Why is
that
this
was
funny?"
that was a staple, man.
Mhm. What do children watch these days? What do your children watch, Brian?
That is a great question. Oh, I don't know. Random animes. Thankfully not Skibbity Toilet,
I don't
which
have
maybe
any
don't want to
idea
look
what
that
that
up.
is. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
won't. My daughter started, she's 7. She started watching Pokemon. And I was like, Pokemon
Hmm.
is still cool.
Yes, it is.
20 years later.
Still can't catch them all.
Still can't catch them all. It's because they keep making more to catch. This is a problem. Apparently there's like 1,000 now.
You say problem, the Nintendo company sees business opportunity. Oh, sorry, the Pokemon company.
Right. I say problem, they say profit, is what they say.
Hockey stick growth in
Mhm.
the number of Pokemon.
New children to hook. Actually, I have a coworker who took some time off this summer to play Pokemon Go with their child, and I was like, that is a lovely vacation idea. It's not really a vacation; it's like staycation and play Pokemon Go. Sounds nice.
So I can't share from the app, but I can share from the browser. So I'm just going to sign in twice because the app does better video if I turn that on.
But what about second Brandon?
Twice as nice.
Just keep on multiplying. Figure sometimes it's nicer to be able to see what someone is looking at when we pull up these issues. So I went through and looked at stuff. I couldn't find anything good for image spec. I really didn't go looking too far this week. Moving kind of at the last minute this time. But I figure we could chat about some of these. Unless folks have anything else you want to talk about. Figure before putting Mike into therapy mode, let's see. We got the unordered chunk upload. Rob, I know this was one you were interested in, and Tiana saw some of your comments in there as well. I think depending on which of the different scenarios we look at, some of these problems become easy and some of them are not easy, depending on which of the scenarios we're in. So for example, if we've got a old client talking to a registry that supports chunks being uploaded in any order, potentially the registry need to make sure the registry doesn't give the client the impression that everything's fine when it's not fine from the old client's workflow. Because potentially it can't go back and just arbitrarily picking a location in the middle of a chunk or in the middle of a whole blob to upload in the middle of it. But a new client that is talking to an old registry also shouldn't break everything on the old registry. So depending on both of those scenarios, I think there are problems to work out in each direction on that one. Not sure, Ram, if you've had time to look at this one this week or not. Just figure out, keep it on the radar.
Not yet. I've reviewed this, but yes, this is all good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to chat about this before we put Mike into therapy mode?
Hey,
Here we go. Just for you, Mike.
I prefer the May language in this particular context. On
People go to an-
on 546. Yeah.
What is it? Men will go to an OCI meeting and not to therapy. Okay. So in this, we've got the original request here, and everything in this just updates here. But the original request was saying, hey, if we push content, how do we push tagged content with a different digest algorithm? And so it expanded also into saying, well, what about if we do the chunk blob upload, the post patch put scenario where the put with the digest comes at the very end of the request in the registry. If they're doing some kind of streaming, it would also be confused. So I worked on the PR. I've got something that works with OlaReg. It also works with Zot now on a branch of Zot. Changes not a lot in the spec. So the spec itself has a few different things in here. We're saying, okay, if it's an invalid digest, just give you a 400 bad request. And then we've got the error code at the bottom already talks about bad digest. And then I specified in here the digest algorithm parameters should be provided. So this isn't a must, but this is a nice to have for the registries. And potentially the registry might just say, hey, I wasn't expecting that at the very end if you did something otherwise. And this is only for if the client is sending something other than a SHA-256. So it's only for when we add new digest algorithms or if they're using the 512 support that's already there today. And so the way that would look is just a query parameter on there. So Tianan, I know you were asking about, shouldn't we say in the example here, SHA-256? I don't think we want that as the example because that's the one scenario where you don't need this.
But if we had support for it, isn't explicit better than implicit?
Could be. I tend to say if it's going to be the SHA-256, you probably just don't even want to bother sending this in general. It's just
Right, but if you
extra
don't
data.
send this, then the registry might respond with Blake 3 or something instead, because now you're leaving it up to the registry to decide the digest algorithm.
My hope is we never change what the canonical value is. Potentially we could, but I'm hoping we never do.
Yeah, that sounds like Git levels of wishful thinking.
I mean, changing the canonical digest algorithm feels like it would break a lot of other stuff.
Yes.
And so I'm inclined to say leave canonical alone and just have everything switch over. But yeah, I mean, if we get into a scenario where we discover that the SHA-256 and 512 are broken beyond repair and everybody has to migrate, yeah. Not MD5. Sajay, that's just not even funny. I'm not laughing.
I know.
I think what I want to probably like talk a bit more about what Tiana's suggesting is how do we do this if we had to deprecate 256 and the registry did not want to support 256 at any point in time? Do we still honor the default? That would be a problem, right?
Potentially, the registry could say if you didn't provide an algorithm and they had deprecated SHA-256, they could assume the client is trying to do SHA-256 and then immediately respond back unsupported. That's a potential.
Okay,
So wouldn't we want to just start encouraging people to
yeah, that's kind of what I was
include the
thinking.
parameter?
Okay. So we can just take out the language here of when pushing other than, just say when pushing client should, unless they're including the full digest in the original request.
Yeah. The default for now and for the foreseeable future, but if something were to happen
Okay.
where it was unsafe to be the default, we would change it. So then how can we make that as easy as possible?
I feel like either way, the clients, when they start pushing that with either without specifying it, or if they do specify it and specify they're still on SHA-256, what does the registry do in that scenario? They come back and just say invalid.
I guess a different question here would be how common is it to even use this endpoint at all? Because it seems like a strange scenario for a client to be uploading a blob that it doesn't already have additional content related to that blob that it wants to upload, and thus has already had to calculate a digest for it. For example, a client is probably not going to upload a layer before it's created an image manifest that includes that layer and config blobs. And so it's already going to have calculated a digest. It's not going to wait to round trip it through the registry to have the registry calculate a digest just so it can make an image manifest based on the digest returned from the registry.
I think this workflow was the default in Docker for a very long time. I don't know what the current default in Docker is, but the default was always to do a put without the digest, a single patch request of the streaming blob upload. And so they would calculate the compressed value and the tar and everything on that layer at that time. And then after the layer was uploaded, then do the final put and say, okay, I finished uploading, here's the digest I had, and make sure the registry got the same one.
I do this in Crane as well. If you give me a blob on standard in, I don't do 2 passes, it's a single pass.
Same for Edge Client. And if I am doing a conversion, so I've got some modification support for some of the stuff in Reg Client, and so I will do the blob modification on the fly as well. And so I don't know what the resulting digest is until I finish.
But then you also blindly trust whatever value the registry gives you back and embed it.
The client is computing it as it's pushing it.
So you are assuming the registry is going to use a particular digest algorithm.
Right now, I'm assuming it's going to support SHA-256.
Yeah. So it still seems to me like it would be good for those cases where you are assuming the registry will give you a SHA-256 to be explicit and say, hey, registry, I'm assuming you're going to give me a SHA-256. And if you're not, please tell me now before I waste all my time uploading this 5 GB blob and calculating a SHA-256 that will then not match what you give me back.
Yeah, which I think that just verifies what everybody was saying, that I need to take this text out that says other than SHA-256 and just say if you don't give the digest up front, then you need to give the digest algorithm. And still keeping it as a should. I'm not going to make it a must. There are going to be a lot of old clients out there that don't do this. But then in that case, when I change that to no longer have that exception, then I'll do exactly what you're saying, Tinon, change this to the SHA-256. Really, someone laughed at Sajay. That wasn't funny. I wasn't laughing at that. It's just not.
If you know, you know, that's why.
I do know, and that's why I'm not laughing at it. The pain, the horrible, horrible pain. All right. So I've got at least one action there to change that. Otherwise, in this, the makefile, I did some tweaks around to that a little bit. I do need to get rid of this comment and turn it back into a reference to a Zot image that's on their repo, but I think that's going to take some merging on their side, which there might be a chicken and egg issue here where they want to see if the spec is going to go a certain direction before they put changes on their side. So it does work with the current PR they got, though. I'm not sure, Ram, what are your thoughts on merging and tagging release with something that hasn't been merged on the OCI side?
Not too enthusiastic about that.
Yeah. The other option, I can merge and tag. I've got a little OLA project. I can do that as well. And we can have two registry CIs over here, one for Zot, one for OC, one for the Mellow side project. And then we can toggle back and forth as people want to. So we'll keep some options open there. If anybody is paying too close attention, it's like what the heck did Brand do there? He deleted an entire action. The PR was a copy of the other conformist action. It just had a different on push to the main branch or on a pull request. I just put them both in the same file, keep it simple. And then I got a little fancier. I didn't hard code the port to 5000 on the host. And so I'm pulling up the port number there. I can actually make this a little bit easier, more better kind of stuff. I might work on that bit. All right. So any other thoughts on this? Bunch of makefile stuff, spell check on the action. I ended up like finding things as I was going through fixing stuff. This may end up getting broken into multiple PRs if this gets too big for people to look at. But the overall in the conformance, it got really ugly just because I had to start creating more tags to test, more digests, more blobs to test. And then I ended up creating an entire chunk of like test blobs and test manifest and whatnot to be able to push for the different digest algorithms. So it got very complicated very quick. All right, let's move to the other side of this. We can come back to that if folks want to go back to it. There is in here, this was Ram's request, update some documentation. I just before the meeting had a bunch of feedback in there. I did want to point out though that in the image spec today, we define what a descriptor is, what the digest in the descriptor is. We've got examples in there, the 256 and the 512 and a multi-hash dash plus base 58, something, something, something. I don't know what on earth people are thinking of to put these examples in there that hopefully none of us will ever use. At least we said it's not registered. So got that going for us. And the two registered algorithms that we've documented over here are the 256 and 512 on the SHA. So those are in image spec today. That image spec supports both of those for a digest on a descriptor. So when I'm making the changes on distribution spec, this is kind of what I'm looking at of saying, we already support this today in image spec. I want to make sure we're able to push this to a registry. And so when I go through there, I'm kind of looking at the fact that you're working on ROM of answering the questions, and I probably changed everything all over the place on here, but I was just saying, you know, we're not really adding a new digest algorithm. We're just documenting how to push an existing one that's already supported by the image spec. And the big issue I had when we were making that PR to set up was that potentially registries won't accept a blob upload and you wouldn't even know until the very end. And, or even if it was working, we haven't really been testing it to even know if they are supporting other digest algorithms. And specifically with the manifest, the big break that came from the issue that was opened up was that if you push a tagged manifest, the client can't pick the algorithm on that. And therefore you can't submit refers to a tagged manifest. And so I wanted to make sure we fix that issue where tag manifests can have refers pointing to them, even if you push it with a different digest algorithm.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, so the reason I put this was I didn't know where to put this first. It actually spans everything, and I think I put it just maybe for my sake so that I am clear on what's going on. So, but I'll modify the PR with your comments.
Yeah. And then the Go Digest did that. And we've kind of done this, although I don't think this is part of the tag release. I don't know if the 384 is part of the tag release. Let's go back and look at what we've got in the 1.0. Yeah, they did add 384 in there. I think that got suggested that they pull it out. What do we have in, where's my main branch? Why can't I go to main? Yeah, so they at least commented that it's not part of the spec. And you should be discouraged. So they got a comment in there saying, don't do this. Which I guess that's better than nothing. I'm almost tempted to say put a deprecation notice on that one so that it starts flagging any code that tries to use it. And I know there's also attempts to add Blake 3 support over there. And so a few things that, yeah, it's probably been a while since they've done a release, hasn't it? May of 2020. It's been a hot bit. And John, I know on the Blake 3 that they're talking about moving that up to the top level so that it's no longer a separate include that you have to do.
I would like to go fast.
So if we go fast, we need to at least get this done. And then once we get this one done, then we can talk about an image spec. What do we do? The risk of going fast is that we'll have content that's not portable, but that's unpreventable. We can't get around that.
I mean, everything is possible with sufficient jankiness.
You can convert the content, put signatures and SBOM references and pin digest, mirrors, and everything else.
My stupid idea was to have io.blake3 be an annotation that has the Blake 3 digest, so that old clients use SHA-256 and new clients can ignore that entirely. But like, obviously, in the fullness of time, we'd like to drop the SHA-256 entirely.
So I think that was everything I had in the queue here. So I'll just leave it as an open floor for anybody who wants to chat. Mike, do you need a therapy session yet?
No, I do like the idea of in the documentation talking about, sets of digests and not just 512 or 256. I just presumed that was the direction we were going after the conversation we had last week.
I was separating what's going on in image spec from what we need to document in image spec. Because my assumption was that image spec is going to have the individual digests that we're going to register in here. And so we would need to add another one in there and then work on that on the image spec side, separate from the distribution spec APIs.
Is there a restriction on the number and type of digests that are supported by image spec in a must language? I didn't check.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, the most we say over here is that implementation should use the SHA-256. So I think we're kind of implying that's the canonical one.
Right.
And we do say, if you got a new one, submit it, register it.
Okay.
So I think that's a call to action for the Go Digest developers that decided on having a new algorithm over there. Let's get that registered over in image spec then. All right, I'm out of topics here, so open floor. Anybody wants to chat?
So what are the action items, Brandon? Looks like there is some sequence we need to follow here.
For me, the action item is to get rid of this comment here that says, other than SHA-256, just say, if you're not pushing it with the digest and you're doing this put patch post patch put request sequence in there, that you should include the digest algorithm for everything. And should, not must. And then I'll change this example to 256 down here in that scenario. So other than that, I'm looking at the documentation, I'm kind of leaning towards separating the distribution spec from the image spec kind of changes here. And so from the distribution spec, for me, it's much more about, does the API allow the content to be pushed to the registry and queried? So maybe this is getting into two facts, one for over here, and then another one for image spec saying, hey, we want to add more digest algorithms to image spec because we're worried about all these problems.
Yeah, but that can wait because we already have SHA-512. So we can try with 256 and 512 here. And then when we get to Blake 3, we add Blake 3 there, and this should become easier.
Mike, where are you going with this?
Yeah, no, I was just looking at the place where it talks about registering the additional digest algorithms. Was interesting.
Yeah, so
They had two extra ones already, SHA plus URL set base64 encoding,
but not registered.
but not registered.
And I have no idea what this is.
Me either.
Does make me wonder if there was some kind of format that you could have multiple digest algorithms in there, the 256 and the Blake in the same digest string.
Yeah.
I kind of want to avoid doing that myself. the registered algorithms are down in the section where we document that we've got these two that are known. And so we need to add into this. And presumably another little section in here that talks about why Blake 3 and that we did register Blake 3. So I wonder if documenting why Blake 3 in here might handle some of the things you're looking to answer, Rob.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I want to point out was on the distribution spec side, solving for the mixing of SHA-256 and 512 will already get us some distance, and we don't have to do anything on the image spec side because we have the 512 here. But as a second step, we need to add Blake 3 here because then that benefits us from the performance side.
I would talk about in here, the reason we're registering Blake 3 is that it has nice performance properties and other concerns like that. And then I think it would make sense to add a note in here that says when mixing, just be aware that you have the security value of whatever the least secure algorithm is inside of your overall DAG. So maybe just kind of like an implementer's note, but that would be over an image spec as well.
Okay, so do you want to do this after the disk spec changes are sorted out, or do you want to do this in parallel?
I'm tempted to say that because the Go Digest project has already started working on Blake 3 on their side, let's register it. Let's get that documented. And as part of registering it, I'm thinking that we can put a lot of the stuff you're looking to talk about with performance and concerns about mixing hashes inside of a single manifest and whatnot. Let's get that documented over here as part of the image spec descriptor. Is that making sense? Or do you want to chat offline afterwards?
I don't think anyone here is against Blake 3. So
I'm assuming it'll be a separate PR and there won't be any necessarily conformance test for it because we don't have conformance test for image spec. So I don't know how much we can do for that right away, but that might be another thing to add. Are we putting Mike back in therapy?
Fine.
You seem a whole lot easier on this right now, Mike. We were getting stressed out before.
I was surprised before. Now I'm not surprised.
You're resigned to the chaos that we're getting ready to unfold on this.
The chaos is an opportunity.
I mean, when I look at some
It's
of
a
the
very
stuff
healthy
that I've
perspective.
Sorry, Joy, go ahead.
I was just saying that's a very healthy perspective, Mike.
When I look at some of the stuff I've broken, though, oh, wrong window. This one. Layer details are unavailable. I kind of broke everything. So many things were broken by that image. John's still here, so I'll pick on his as well. And this is not singling John out because everything was broken by this, but the Fantastic Registry Explorer was like, hey, you've got this SHA-256, which that is the way it uploaded to the registry. I didn't have the option to upload with anything else. And then normally we have all these digests here linkable, but not
I'm
now.
honestly surprised this worked at all. Truthfully, I might fix that for you. What a bummer.
I'm not complaining at all. I just found it pretty funny.
No, I wonder if
isn't-
it's just broken on generating the links, or if you handcrafted the correct SHA-512 URL, if it would work and show you the layer contents or the config blob.
Yeah, I wonder if Crane supports SHA-512 blob references. Are you calling Crane under the covers from this, or is that
No,
more just kind of a UX?
that would be crazy. That's just UX. If you give me 3 minutes, I can maybe fix this.
But yeah, broke this. I broke the vulnerability scanners, so compressed sizes just completely missing in there. Yeah, everything was broken on this one. So I did a good job breaking everything.
Can you send me
Right,
that
right.
link?
You want the link? I can give you a link in the Zoom chat. I feel like Steve-O was very forward thinking here. You're going to break everything when you support this. And then however many years later, 7 years later now, we finally broke it. It's been broken all this time. We just didn't know it.
Hmm.
All right. It's been a while since that was merged, but yeah. Mike, I should probably turn the screen sharing over to you. Keep pulling up all these links.
Just having fun.
Or was,
See, Blake 3 is already registered in Go Digest.
yeah, Blake 3 is registered. Sadly, SHA-384 is also registered over in the Go Digest project. At the very least, we say it's not recommended. Well, we could change this by saying the algorithm is not registered by default to saying it is registered, but you probably don't want to use it just yet. I don't know.
Do we want a canonical registry location? Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
You could, though.
And would it be Go Digest, or should, yeah? Do we really want to update the spec for image every time somebody decides? Once you know you're on, you're pulling the keys off. Once you start doing 2 or 3, it's going to be all kinds of research people coming by.
The reason to register it is because there was a lot of questions of whether the string should be Blake 3 or Blake-256 or B3-256.
Right.
So whatever this string is, it's not just the Go Digest project, but anybody that generates a digest somehow needs to know what that string is.
Right.
That I think is an important detail.
Yeah, and we're not really talking about the digests. We're not explaining that 512 is 256 bytes. We're not explaining a lot of details on what the algorithms do. Is it 1024 bytes, or I can't?
So in the image spec, we have a link over there saying here it is, and then what does this link go to? The actual RFC that defines the algorithm itself.
Okay.
So
yeah, that link seems to be there and also in Go Digest, or a link anyway. At least in the code it is, right?
Yeah, so Go Digest, it would be nice if they had links, but I'm not going to say required. But I would say in the spec, we want our spec to say this is the digest prefix string, whatever we're registering, the identifier here. And then from there, when you see this identifier, here's the actual specification that says what we just registered.
Okay, so you're not going to create some kind of Go file.
Not in image spec.
Let that be in digest.
Yeah, I think the Go Digest already has their stuff.
Right.
And I think there's been discussion about, hey, we're doing stuff that isn't registered in image spec, but they can do whatever they'd like. The big thing, though, is that they haven't done a release in 4 years now, and so a lot of people are still using whatever was back there in the 1.0 release. John Tianan is harassing you in the comments.
What did he say?
Apparently your timeout has expired.
Oh, give me a second.
No, you promised me 3 minutes.
It's more complicated than I thought.
Hey, your second's up.
Hold on.
I don't have anything to hold on to.
I've got
Alright, we flip the
17
desk
minutes
over.
on my calendar.
My desk is upside down now, John. There's nothing left to hold on to. Flipped it over.
Oh no.
Wait
Wait a
I broke
minute.
the world with this thing. I broke the Docker engine. I can't pull this image.
Something's weird. Something's strange. Oh, I know what I
Any
did
more
wrong.
fun links? Otherwise, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. We can look at bases.
All right. Got to run yet.
We can also let John code in peace, so we're not harassing him.
No, harass
care,
me.
Mike.
Fine.
He might work better under pressure.
Yeah, I'll never do this if not.
Quick, ask him a math problem.
So we're just gonna watch John. We need the live streaming. We need the fancy background lighting going on.
I think he needs a color commentator.
Yeah.
I think he needs a smoke generator. Get the
Somebody
Twitch
doing,
stream going.
Yeah, and doing play-by-play on it.
Oh, Shaw 512's really got him on the ropes.
Right.
It feels that way. Something somewhere made some bad assumptions about something.
If you have anything that points over to Go Digest and you say from bytes or from anything like that, it defaults to the canonical. If you've So pretty much everywhere in my code, anywhere I was calling the Go Digest project, I had to go back through and just say, okay, let me inject the algorithm here, inject the algorithm there. And then I realized I need to be very careful with that, because if you ever inject an invalid algorithm, the response from Go Digest is to just panic.
Cool.
So if you're ever reading a manifest and you see a digest in there in the manifest, and Tianan, we can race on this if you want to. If you push up a manifest that has an invalid digest inside of it, a registry could potentially allow it, and then a client trying to pull it could then generate a nice panic when it tries to pull it and parse it.
Yeah, but Docker Hub's probably going to reject it, so it's less interesting to me. I
It'll
only
reject
want to
the
make things
push
that
out.
break people that I can also host on Docker Hub.
Yeah, I would have to probably make a tar file and host it in like the OLAREdge project, because that wouldn't do any validation on an existing OCI layout directory. So I'm debating, do I want to generate some bad manifest and just see if I can crash a Docker engine completely?
Wouldn't be the first time this month.
It wouldn't. But yeah, Crane is definitely not happy, huh?
It's not happy at
Unsupported
all.
hash.
It's not happy at all.
Does Crane not use the canonical Go Digest implementation, John?
Not exactly. It kind of does sometimes, but not in the way you'd expect. Somewhere, someone is truncating this to the length of SHA-256 instead of SHA-512.
There is a place where you're supposed to truncate when we do refers. And
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm betting a lot of people do not truncate the digest for the refers with the fallback tag, because you would exceed the length limit of the tag. Of all the things I'm going to break, that'll be the next one.
I'm gonna search for 71. Aha. 71. That's your problem.
It'd be interesting to see how trivial it is or how complex it is to fix.
So I'm fixing like a fork of Crane that I use for doing really weird things.
So you've got Crane, you've got G Crane. Is this like JJ Crane?
I mean, it's not Crane. It's a fork of Go Container Registry. Because I want to do things that are technically invalid, but exist.
Have you considered having a different HTTP 200 code for invalid content that you would just still give back anyway? You saw that in the Zoom channel, didn't you?
I don't think so. Tell me more.
I will tell you more. Over in our off-topic channel, I threw a link to someone that says they want an HTTP status code that they want like a 222 tolerated when the client is doing it wrong, but you decide to be the bigger person and deal with it anyway.
I love that.
I'm feeling like I should just start inventing random status codes and be like, yeah, whatever.
I have too many things. Invalid checksum digest length. What?
Tina is having too much fun trolling you in the comments.
Oh, the dreaded 71. Will you figure this out, Brandon? Sorry, I'm really not into sports. Does it show? How am I doing?
Great, you do great.
A little delayed.
I mean, it's well timed. I mean, we could make this an Olympic sport. Why not?
'Tis the season.
Oh, Brandon's throwing him another curveball.
I really do want to make this maybe afternoon project to completely distract me from all the other afternoon projects I was supposed to be working on. To handcraft a manifest with a completely broken digest algorithm and throw that up in a little sample registry and see what completely falls apart.
What? Invalid checksum digest link? Are you kidding me? This is from digest.canonical.validate.
But it's not canonical.
Why is that stupid? Okay.
The
Well,
canonical is 256.
I'm just not. Well, I guess I do want to validate it, huh?
You do want to do a
Okay.
digest algorithm validate on whatever you're giving it.
Yeah.
And then you have to do a digest dot whatever the algorithm is, dash whatever.
We're going to do some really janky things, but it's going to work.
I'm reading over this. Tianon. I've got my little own hobby registry that I've been playing with, so I think I'll be able to throw it in there pretty easily because it just works on top of an OCI layout. So I can throw whatever I want into that JSON file, update the digest, and go with it.
And it doesn't do any built-in validation of anything. It just trusts that OCI layout.
It's got built-in validation, but when the client says, give me this tag, I think it's just going to dump the manifest to the client. It will do the validation if I upload it, but if I say just serve out this directory, it'll serve out whatever's in there.
Yeah. I guess my horrible idea could even be implemented with just Nginx and have it say anything under /manifest/ should return this object.
I have considered what it would be like to make a registry you could host on just any arbitrary web server for read-only access. Put it behind anywhere. What would it take to take an image and convert all the different requests into just GET request or the individual blobs? And it wouldn't support the full spec, but it will support at least a GET request. And so kind of thought process is taking an image and converting it into just a directory structure for GET request or an Nginx.
Yeah, way back a long time ago now, Jerome Petazzoni did some testing around fully non-dynamic registries that could be hosted on like S3 just verbatim or in a Git repo.
The only thing that's holding me back is the /v2 needs to be at the root. So it needs to be on a web server that knows how to host it from that path forward.
Yeah, the harder bit is actually the requests that are supposed to have headers on them. Like the digest header. Because with fully static content, injecting headers is complicated.
There are registries that don't give out the Docker digest header.
Ooh.
I feel the same way. But because those registries exist, it means the clients need to still work without those headers. Now, the media type header, that would be an issue, but you could assume a good client and just give back the answer anyway and be a bad server. Now, the content type on the response, I don't know how well that would work. Shucks, Tianon, you might have broke my whole idea. Good thing I didn't spend any time trying to implement it.
Yeah, someone else has already done that before. I think V did some experiments around that too, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Which has also been years ago now.
feel like a lot of her stuff has been over in Python.
Yeah. But she was also similarly enamored with the idea of a fully static registry because that makes it really easy to like replicate and deploy, and it's just copying files around. FTP mirroring.
All right. It works now.
Yes.
Fixed it. Just in the nick of time. That was more than 3 minutes though.
I know. It was 4 different places instead of one place. Very surprised.
I'm not surprised at all. So, should I refresh this page?
Yeah.
Holy cow, there are links. They come back with directory structures. This is awesome. Now I just need to try this crane command and watch it break.
That's not going to work for sure.
Well, coming in 3 minutes before the top of the hour, that was impressive work there, John.
John for president. See y'all next week.
Awesome.
John wins the SHA Olympics. Way to go. Yay. Bye.
All right, everybody. Take care. Have a good one.
Good work, John. We could just fill this recording with nonsense. So good. I'm an adult. Goodbye.